Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Christine Fellows from NBC Universal, and I am honored to present the keynote speaker and one of this conference's luminaries of the media industry, Mr. Gerry Byrne, Vice Chairman of the Penske Media Corporation. Penske Media Corporation is a leading digital media company with award-winning content, a huge portfolio of brands that are reaching over 260 million people a month in more than 175 countries around the world, with a collective 390 million social media followers. They're based in LA and New York. Gerry's coming to us live from New York. They have offices around the world. So a really powerful, diversified global media organization and a portfolio of some of the world's coolest industry brands. Rolling Stone, which I think you're all very aware of. Women's Wear Daily, one of my favorites. And for those of us in the entertainment industry, The Bible, Variety are just some of them. Gerry is a media executive. He's an entrepreneur and a community leader who's been launching and managing global media enterprises across sectors that include advertising, marketing, entertainment, fashion, retail, his entire career. So Gerry, welcome. Nice to see you today.
Thank you, Christine.
Now, let me start by I don't know that Penske Media is a brand that everyone would be aware of, although the iconic brands that are in your portfolio are some of the most followed and dedicated to specialist industry publications. But you're not a publishing company. Can you tell us a little bit about what PMC does?
I want to hear the introduction all over again. I was so thrilled by it. So
I know we can end right now.
Penske Media Corporation is about 15 years old, founded by Jay Penske, who had a vision that, the power of content, when that content was spread across, some of the most important industries that are important to the business community across, the nation and around the globe. When you own the news, information, and data that focuses on a sector of the economy, you're going to have huge opportunities. So, Jay's vision began with Deadline Hollywood, which was acquired from its founder, which led to, as you suggested, the acquisition of Variety, which I had been part of many years ago. And in all, we probably have the leading journals that cover entertainment, media, communications, fashion, retail, art, now sports. And our obsession is, on a global basis, is to provide, news, information, and data that's going to make a difference in these business communities primarily. Even with Rolling Stone, which you mentioned earlier, even with Rolling Stone, that is becoming more and more, an industry Bible because of the data and statistics that we are bringing to the core of its coverage. So, and when you say, a publishing company, we are a publishing company, a little bit of us. So we publish, print, less so than we did at one time, but we our revenue streams are digital, digital direct, digital programmatic. We do a ton of live events, although that's been reduced because of COVID. But those COVID events, or those live events, I should say, have been converted to digital events, which has been very successful for us. We do a ton of licensing. We do a ton of syndication. We have audience revenue through subscriptions. That is a significant part of what we do. We have a corporate sales program for the first time, which is now capitalizing on, the access and reach we have of these major communities. So uh, we're juggling all sorts of ways to take the content that we have and effectively, maximize uh, the profitability from each one of those sectors.
And Gerry, the I can see through all of those different sort of media vehicles you have around the content that the what holds all of that together is the brand. So where Women's Wear Daily has become synonymous with, the insider view on fashion and everything you need to know in that industry, as have all, I mean, I think all of the brands that you cover are really centers of expertise and specialization in their categories. But how important are brands? We talk about this a lot in the branded media space that I work in. Which is, in a world where increasingly where content is available digitally and the algorithm defines sort of search, then brands, which to me used to be kind of the pathfinders, for destinations and give you a sense of the meaning of what it is or where you're going. Is that changing now, though, in a digital world? Are brands still really, the center of how you're building business?
It's a great question, and the a brand is, a part of the uh, success of what we do, but really only a part. I mean, Variety was founded in 1905 in New York,
Mm,
covering, Women's Wear Daily also is a, nearly 100-year-old brand. Uh, the brand is only as good as the information and news and data that it provides to the community that it serves. So, to your example of, you know, uh, going to the web and, addressing these algorithms that are the way that we have to, in essence, practically manage how we address, search. So
mm,
part of the success is having the brand, having the technical skills and the management skills to provide search engine optimization that works and allows you to float to the top because you have an extraordinary brand, but a brand that is
mm,
credible, brand that people recognize, and a brand that is dependable in terms of the information that it provides. And what happens, even in the consumer publishing, world, which we are really not in. Uh, the it's very hard to distinguish when you do a search and there's a story on X, even if it's a celebrity or it's a politician or it's a business story. When you do the search, you'll get 20 or 30 interesting, decent stories about the subject that you searched. In
mm,
our world, relevant news brings our brands to the top. And everything
mm,
that we do to retain the individual who is in search of news, information, and data allows us to create the businesses that I described before, including, which I didn't add before, e-commerce. E-commerce is a very
mm.
important component of what we do.
Hmm. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. What are you selling?
We are selling uh, refrigerators, televisions. I'm only half
I
kidding.
thought you
Uh,
might be.
but but when you have brands like uh, Variety, or you have brands like Rolling Stone. I mean, Rolling Stone has built up an e-commerce in the past year that's extraordinary. We have a brand that's worth looking at called Boy Genius Reports, BGR. And what this brand does, it really highlights for individuals who are in primarily the technology sector about what is the hottest, coolest, and newest in terms of units or platforms that they want to know about, and through that entire process, we provide our audiences e-commerce platforms in partnerships with uh, with with a lot of the big brands. So it's we kind of we the thing is that we manage our audience on a horizontal basis as much as we
Mm.
manage our audiences on a vertical basis. And when
Yes.
you really build an audience and you build a faithful community of readers and users, what you can do in all areas of revenue generation is kind of extraordinary.
Absolutely, and the way that you create an ecosystem where they all sort of add value to each other, it's an amazing model. And you talked about as I think as custodians of a portfolio of legendary brands that have been around for some time and have continued to evolve and to move, and in fact I think we were really ahead of the times in many cases. I see that PMC is really defined by journalistic integrity. I mean, particularly in that B2B space, you are and you need to be continually held to that high standard of integrity to be the experts and center of excellence, and your brands are also such that they really do have audiences of global leaders and influencers. Certainly, every CEO in my industry is connected to your digital and publications. How do you stay true to those values of integrity and ethics and innovation in a world where increasingly the media is driven by sort of opinion and it's moving at hyper speeds, and there's so much sort of distrust of the media in an era of fake news. So how do you tell me how you've really been able to stay true to your values as an organization?
Again, it's a great question. Integrity is of extreme importance to us because that's part of the foundation of what we do: truth, honesty, integrity. And
Mm,
what makes it happen for us the way it happens is leadership. We're also uh,
mm,
obsessed with nurturing uh, leaders who are the best at what they do. So
mm,
it is a moment in time right now in our where we are looking for talent, the best talent that we can find, where most organizations have uh, been inundated with layoffs. In the past 2 to 3 months, we've hired close to 100 people uh, because we see more vividly now than ever the importance of that integrity that you described. We have to be the best at what we do. We have to be the most credible in terms of the information that we provide. And when that happens, people react and respond and subscribe and
mm,
advertise and engage with us. It's
mm.
people often ask me, why do I do what I do? And I simply say it's not rocket scientry. I mean, you create an audience, you nurture that audience, you know provide that audience everything that is important to them, and then you define who that audience is, and then you take that definition to a brand, an
Mm,
advertiser, and you
mm.
create a marriage where you go dating with that brand.
Yeah.
And that formula has really never changed. I mean, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked for the New York Daily News that was my first job out of the service. And the New York Daily News at the time was the largest newspaper in the United States. Three and a
Mm,
half million circulation print, on
mm,
Sunday. And what I saw with that newspaper was what happens when retail advertisers and brands selling televisions would offer something that was special to that daily news community. The explosive response was just awesome. And I think to this day, you provide news information and data to these audiences that we're talking about. And, they'll go out, if it's in the entertainment sector, which we are in, we can ignite acquisitions. We can ignite opportunities to create content. We can identify the unique things that NBC Universal is doing and say how brilliant that is, and you'll be finding other production and distribution organizations, trying to copy and succeed. So it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's super fun. Well, and interesting, and I think wonderful to encouraging news to hear that you are continuing to look for talent, and I think it's been such a disruptive time in across many industries, but certainly those that this conference sort of speaks to. I'm sure you're going to be getting a lot of emails over the next week or so, Gerry, from people who are looking for those roles with your extraordinary company. But seriously, I think that one of the things that is so, speaking to what you're saying, one of the things that's so impressive about the organization also is that you have these businesses that are, as you say, a century old, and they're really still at the edge of innovation in terms of leading the industry. And that's really, to me, that type of innovation is all about creativity. And I think you were speaking about the culture of PMC. I wanted to read a quote from your CEO, Jay Penske. He said, and I love this, the worst mistake this company can make is being too afraid to make one. And it's certainly well documented that the disruptive innovation and a culture of creativity needs to be inspired by a workforce that feel that they are empowered to make mistakes, to take risk, and to be bold, and to sometimes get it wrong. And it requires sort of courage and resilience and an ability to be vulnerable. But it's so important. And how is it, though, with an organization as vast as yours, that spans the world? How do you create a culture of, it goes back to leadership, I know, but how do you create a culture of creativity and innovation?
Well, the quote that you offered that Jay provided says a lot, and the word that you used again is extremely important, the word leadership. And it's not just leadership at the top, it's leadership at every level. And it's the ability to make decisions and, make mistakes. It's a percentage game. You have to take chances to succeed. And we created an environment where we don't mandate risk taking. We mandate, the use of intelligence and understanding the markets that you're in, and then making decisions. Now, some of those decisions are not always, right on point, but when you have good people, most of them are on point. And if you create a team and structure an organization that at every level there's leadership, it makes a difference. And it's something that I love. Is an organization that kind of like creates an environment of creativity, and also provides leadership that allows the individuals who are part of the community to go out and take chances because they know they are going to be supported. So we're on that. That's.
And how do you balance then the requirement of stakeholders for financial performance with that competition is relentless, and business is certainly tough these days, but so those demands are, I think, that, and the pressure around that is fairly profound. How do you balance that with the the desire to continue to evolve and innovate and be creative, which requires, as you said, a certain amount of risk taking?
Well, that's a great question too. But superior management, recognizes that whether you're a public or private company, uh,
Mm,
you survive uh, because you have created a profitable company, whether it's for the public or private shareholders, the investors. And we
mm,
recognize that. We recognize that, at the end of the day, we have to measure our success, through profitability. And
mm,
we have had an extraordinary track record over these years in making the brands work and
mm,
acquiring brands that need support and focus and uh, bringing in the best people to run those brands. And at the same time, we listen to opportunities to create, whether it's distribution partnerships or brand partnerships, so that we can serve, the communities that we're part of, be it fashion or retail or entertainment or broadcast or streaming or whatever
mm,
aspect of the world that we're part of. It's as I said before, it's an enjoyable profession, particularly when I see opportunity, growing every day to build new businesses.
mm, mm. And I really see the group. I mean, you're a global powerhouse of a group, truly global citizens, and so much of what you do is around, around popular culture. But you're operating increasingly, we all are, in a world that is becoming more inward looking, I would say. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel that the global landscape is becoming more nationalistic. How do you, and you've also said, and I think it's reflected in a lot of what you say about leadership, that, at the heart of the identity of your organization is humanity. You really are an organization, and you certainly, the way you've lived your life is, it's really around being part of a larger community and a global world. And diversity and inclusion is so much part of that. I think there's real challenges for organizations today that are, as you are, committed to diversity and committed to inclusion and creating an equitable workspace. Isn't that more and more challenging with the world that we're living in and the increasing sort of inward focus?
It's challenging, Christine, but it's also necessary. In other words,
Mm,
we have a foundation within the company called the 2% Foundation, and it's an initiative where we encourage everyone in the company to give 2% of their time that we will match in whatever community they feel is important. We're not
mm,
restrictive about that. We have a not-for-profit inside Penske called PMC Cares, and PMC Cares addresses, the needs of the various communities that we're part of, so that we become a global, you know, citizen, participating and supporting the needs of these various communities. The link between giving back and succeeding is extraordinarily important.
mm,
Believe it or not, even from a budgetary point of view, the amount of money in today's environment that goes into what are CSR budgets, community service responsibility budgets. These budgets,
mm,
are now what big brands, whether the brand is, LVMH or and their brands or it's Federal Express, they know
mm,
it's important for them to address community needs through that budgeting process. So we're aware of all of this, and we see just the importance of being a citizen within each of these communities that we are part of, and it's
mm.
gratifying too. It's wonderful to to be to help things change.
Absolutely. And I think on a corporate level and a personal level. And I'm going to just switch to personal for a moment, if you don't mind. But um, uh, just reading a little bit about your life, Gerry, before I come on, the life that you've lived, I think people really need to understand the context in which you're speaking. You're a Vietnam veteran, a decorated Marine officer. You've been awarded for distinguished service and humanitarian contributions across a number of fields. You've worked tirelessly giving back to your community. As the founder of Veterans Week, you launched Veterans on Campus, the Fisher House Foundation, Bob Woodward Foundation you're involved with. You were honored with the Made in New York Award for your contribution to New York's media industry, the chairman of the John Reisenbach Foundation for a Better and Safer New York. You've really lived a life of service that has been defined by giving back. What is it that drives you?
I used to work for Norman Lear, who everyone knows is an extraordinary production executive, for lack of a better description. I mean, he's done so many extraordinary things. And when I worked for him, which was in the mid 1980s, I had lunch with him and said, Norman, how do you do all the things that you do? And when uh, when I asked him the question, was involved in so many community activities, and I said, how do you fit it all in with owning this company? It was called Act 3 Communications at the time. And I'll never forget something that he said to me, which has become woven into my thinking. He said, Gerry, he said, just remember that life is not a rehearsal. And I said,
Mm.
holy, I mean, it really said a ton to me. And that, it's not a rehearsal. And, uh, the military taught me a ton in terms of, focus and leadership and ethics. And,
Mm.
when I combine, that life is not a rehearsal, and, it's also meant to be something that you enjoy and participate in, and try to make a difference. Uh, it's a joy, just getting up every day to see how you can make a difference and make your company better, make the people within the company, believe in the culture that you are creating.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, you have a community of really devoted, obsessed, participants, and that's what Penske Media really is. We have a
Mm.
staff that is unparalleled in terms of their focus and devotion, and we're very fortunate. Not just in the States, but around the world. It's great stuff.
It's really inspiring. It's really inspiring, and I think it's a great way for all of us here on the Asian side to start our days. And I know we've got a lot of people coming to us from the States, and it's a great sort of thought as they retire for the night. I want to just end with a question, and I think in a world, or maybe it's just me looking for optimism, I'd like to with a question about one of my favorite cities in the world, New York, and I know you are a true New Yorker through and through, and New York has been at the center of the COVID crisis that is gripping the world, but also is moving out of it, and I think has shown us some of the best and the worst of humanity in the challenges that the city has faced in recent sort of months. How is New York going? What are the lessons learned? We just have half a minute to go, but give us a message of hope and optimism to end with today.
Well, New Yorkers are very unique, and I know New York will return to, uh, a spot that's better than it ever has been. It's been through a tough time. It's setting the example, in the United States about how to respond to COVID, and it
Mm.
is just it's a community that I love and adore, and will never say anything bad about. So yes, thank you, Christine.
And and we all look forward to getting back there again before too long. Gerry Byrne, Vice Chairman of PMC Media Group, and wonderful human being. It's been such a delight to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us from New York.
Thank you, Christine.